Today our topic is grid down cooking, and we love grid down cooking because we've been doing it for years. We want to be able to cook up a good meal when the grid goes down.
Okay, I'm not sure I can say that I love grid down cooking. We practiced it a lot, and for 30 days we only used grid down cooking and had a normal life, and it was really, really rough. So I don't know that I can say that I love grid down cooking, but we sure know what works and what doesn't. So in today's video, we're going to discuss our top 5, well, I couldn't decide. So our top 6 cooking methods for cooking when the grid goes down. Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Kylene.
And I'm Jonathan, and today we're participating in the 30 Days of Preparedness. September is Preparedness Month. We are doing with a whole group of other cool preppers. Before we get going, I want to thank Rogue Preparedness. Morgan, thank you for kicking this off and making it happen. And all of you should check out the playlist for all 30 days. It'll be good.
Morgan assigned us our top 5 ways to cook when the grid goes down. And the first one, and probably my favorite, is canned heat. Now, when we talk about canned heat, this is what we're looking at. There are different kinds of sterno fuel. Some of them are safe to burn indoors and some of them are not. This is a 6-hour can that is used by caterers that is safe to burn indoors. That's what we're talking about. A lot of times you can buy it under the brand name of SafeHeat. We'll leave a link to a place that you can buy it online, but it's cheapest if you go to Sam's Club and get it. I'll just tell you that. Now, the reason why we like canned heat so much is because you can burn it safely indoors. And think about it. The grid doesn't always go down on sunny days. It can be stormy or windy, or it can be dangerous to be outside. There's all kinds of different issues. And so you want to be able to cook inside, and this is the safest way. You can use these little folding stoves and just...
These are awesome. They're just fold down into a little package.
They're inexpensive, but I would get the brand name sterno one. The off brands are a little bit flimsier, and when you put the pot on here to cook, you want to make sure that it's not going to topple over or anything, but that's the simplest way to do it. The canned heat can be safely stored indoors. It comes in flats of 12. It's a great storage fuel. You've got a shelf life of about 10 years, but we've got a few different things that you can use canned heat in. One is just like this, but the Vesta is my all-time favorite.
The Vesta is actually a 2-in-1. With this heater off, you can cook. You can put 3 cans in here, and that's the advantage of this. Having the 3 cans, you can actually get some real heat. This takes a long time to warm things up.
A long time.
It just does because of the nature of it. In this one, you're using 3 times as much fuel, so you can cook much faster in this.
So with 1 can, you're only gonna see like a little simmer with little tiny bubbles. You put 2 cans together and you can get a good rolling boil, but you put 3 of them together and boiling pasta and cooking things like that, it's just not a big deal. And that's what I like. So you could use 1 in here, you could use 2, or you could use 3.
And then with this heater, this is a really cool heater that sits on top, and it's got a fan. It doesn't need batteries or anything. It just uses the heat to run that fan, and it becomes a heater. So this is a really cool device. 2-in-1.
Actually, and this, if you live in an apartment, if you can't afford much for prepping, this is the one tool that I would say you should get, that and some canned heat, because this can help you make it through a short-term power outage very easily and keep you a little bit warm too.
If you can't even afford this, then, you know, this is very inexpensive. You could do this and it would get you some good cooking.
You're not going to cook dry beans on it, but you're going to do things like warm up a can of beans. Now this is the Inferno. The reason why we're showing you it is because you can put 1 can of canned heat in here and cook indoors, or you can use biomass like pine cones or sticks or things like that. And this is a rocket stove, and you would be able to cook outside using that. So this is versatile and it can do both things. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but let's go on to number 2.
Number 2 is sun oven. This is my favorite. I love this because the fuel that you're using stores free and safely on the sun. It's just awesome.
Okay, and it's not that I don't like it because I love it. In fact, I just made a cake in here for Jonathan. We put it out there about 11 o'clock, and we were scheduled to do a presentation at 1 o'clock. Well, I actually forgot it was there, and then our presentation was late, and so 3 hours later I go to get the cake out and it's not burned.
And it's awesome.
It's still moist and it's nice. And that's the wonderful thing about using the sun, is that it's very forgiving. I don't have to worry about burning anything in the kitchen. It has its limitations, because sometimes if it's a cloudy day, you're going to be able to get up to like 300 and then 200, and it'll toggle back and forth like that. And I just can't cook on days like that. So on days like today, I can cook really well. But yesterday we had this huge rainstorm and there's no way I could have used it. So I need something dependable like canned heat to make sure that I can cook when I can't use this. But when this is available, I think this is one of the most fabulous tools that we have, because it only uses the sun. This is an all-American sun oven. Quite frankly, I think it is the best one that we've ever tried. We've tried several.
We do love this. There's others out there, but it's an awesome way to cook, and you can even build your own and create things very inexpensively.
Make sure you study it out and make sure you practice with it, because just because it's theory doesn't mean that it's gonna work. And we want it to work. When the grid goes down, we need it to work then. Now, how about number 3? Number 3 is fuel conservation or thermal cooking. And the reason why this is so important is because the more we can conserve our fuel, the less fuel that we have to store. And unlike the sun, when we use the sun oven, that's really safe to store, right? But there's a lot of fuels that can be pretty dangerous and expensive. So we're going to show you a couple conservation methods that we think work really well. The first one we probably should talk about is using some kind of a pressure cooker, because it significantly reduces the amount of time you cook your food and use the fuel. The next piece of that is thermal cooking. You want to talk about thermal cooking?
And we can combine some of these, but thermal cooking is basically putting insulation around what you're doing. Now, it's not going to warm it up that way, but you can use a little bit of fuel, usually about 25% of the fuel that you would normally use, to heat up whatever you're cooking. Usually it's a stew or a soup or something. Then we're going to do something like wrap it in a blanket.
So we would heat it up in here, right? Now roast isn't going to work because the center of the roast is going to be hot. But if I were doing beans or stew or anything that has liquid like that, what we would do is we'd line this with towels or blankets, whatever it is that we can do. And then we're going to take this. This is hot. This is boiling. We're going to take it, we're going to put it right in here, and then we're going to pack in the insulation, but we're going to be super careful not to touch the rocker, because if you touch the rocker and tilt it, then you'll lose all of your wonderful heat and your steam. And so you're just going to put towels on top of there, and you can put it in here. Over time, if you use this kind of thermal cooking, this ice chest, the seams are going to start to come apart because of the heat. We know because we've done it. But the thing is, you want 4 inches of insulation on every side, and then it should retain the heat for significantly longer.
Now, before we go any further, let me say our first thermal cooker was a diaper box, because at that point in time, there were lots of diapers coming to our house.
And no money.
And we used a bunch of foam that we made, and it was awesome. I mean, for basically zero money, we built one, and it worked extremely well. It was awesome.
But we ended up throwing it away, because in this method, there's some moisture that leaks. And so the cardboard and the insulation started to stink like beans. It was awful. So I would recommend using washable stuff. We've got an entire video on this and a post, but this concept is really cool. This is a shuttle chef, and it's a commercial one. So what you do is you put the food in here, bring it up to a boil, put the lid on, and then you put it back inside, put the lid on. But this will not retain the heat as long as something like this will. So what I'll do is I'll wrap it in a little baby blanket and set it aside, and then it works really well. You have to be careful that the food never falls below serving temperature, because if it does, then you're just growing bacteria. So you kind of got to learn how to do this to be able to do it safely, but you can cut your fuel consumption by what?
About 75%,
Yeah.
65 to 75%.
Significant, and that makes a big difference when your fuel is limited. And now for number 4, propane. But all that is staying outside.
And that is a good point. Unless your appliance is rated for indoor use, and most of them are not, propane is an outdoor fuel, and you can only use it out there.
Propane is amazing. It has an indefinite shelf life. It's limited only by the tank. As long as that tank is in good condition and it's not leaking, that propane is good forever. The problem with propane is that when it leaks, it finds a low-lying area and it just hangs out there until there's an ignition source, and then you get a big boom. And that's why it's so dangerous. It is a fabulous cooking fuel. I use that probably more than any of the other alternative fuels, because right outside this door, I have a little Camp Chef, and I do all my canning on that. And so we are constantly using it and cooking with it on a regular basis. During a power outage, it's already set up. We're just right outside that back door, and you can whip up just about anything that you need to. So if you've got a propane barbecue at home, think about using that as part of your emergency preparedness arsenal, because if you've already got it, as long as you make sure that your fuel canisters are full, you've got a backup.
So gentlemen, count it. If you've got a barbecue, you're doing prepper stuff. Nice.
Number 5 is charcoal. And charcoal is one of the biggest bangs for your buck. It's super safe to store. One of the things that it does is it absorbs moisture. And if it does that, then it's no good. So, well, you could dry it back out, put it on your driveway or something on a sunny day and let it dry out, but it will not burn well if it's moist. What we've done to solve that problem is we store it in buckets. This is just a used laundry soap bucket. And you want to make sure that it has an airtight lid so that it keeps out the moisture. But that's a great way to store it.
These we didn't think had an airtight lid, so we used silicone caulk.
Yeah, we did caulk it.
And we stuck them down, and this was done in 2005, and we pulled out a bucket a few weeks ago, and it's just like new. It still works just awesomely well.
And one of the things that we do on here just for record keeping is, like, this is 15 pounds, and it's 240 briquettes. And that way it's easier for us to calculate. We have a whole video on this that has some really good calculations and how to use charcoal. So just click the card in the corner or look in the description, and it'll take you to that, and a really good post. Most often when we use charcoal, you think about using it with Dutch ovens, and that's awesome. They're expensive and you want to get good quality, but sometimes if you shop around at a garage sale, you'll be able to find one or two or three for a really good price, or secondhand stores. And sometimes they're covered with rust and stuff, but you can clean them up and they'll be really good. This is a little homemade thing that we've done.
Right, this is a paper box oven made out of a box that reams of paper come in. And it is just the right size for a 9x13 pan. So it's awesome that way. You can see here we've got the little dowels covered with foil.
Yeah, and it's aluminum foil tape that I covered them with, because it's more sturdy than if you just tried to do it with aluminum foil. And then in the bottom here, you'll see there's a little baking sheet. It's just from the dollar store. With the baking sheet, we invert it because this is cardboard. So if you put charcoal on top of cardboard, even if you put foil on it, it's going to burn. So what that does is it provides just enough of an air gap so that it won't burn the box. The reason why this is nice is because it will use significantly less charcoals to do the same job. So that's one good option. And then there's also an apple box oven.
And this one is basically the same concept. It's a little bit bigger, so it takes a little bit more fuel because there's more space to heat. We just made a little rack. Some of the instructions you see online will say use 4 pop cans or something to hold a rack up. I just bought this rack at the I guess it was a sporting goods store, and I just cut off the legs so it matched what we needed, and it has worked really well.
And the intent, right, this is intended to go over an open fire. That's what the purpose of this rack is. And so it worked out really well. But now let's think about fuel conservation. You could put the charcoals directly on the ground or on top of a piece of foil, but if you take one of these cookie sheets and you just invert it, this is a $1 cooking sheet, and put the charcoal on there, then you're not going to get the ground stealing all the heat out of your charcoal, and it'll work much better. If you notice on the box, I'm married to an engineer, so normally the directions were that it was to be tilted on its side, but we just cut little air vents out of both sides. And then as you use it, it gets old and ripped. If you just keep aluminum foil tape around, when you have it cut like that, it'll just really quickly just put it on there and it's fine. You'll notice too, I have written the instructions directly on the box, so whoever's using it knows exactly what to do and how to use it. We have directions how to make both of these on our website, so I will leave a link in the description, and if you are interested in making one for yourself, it's there and you can look it up.
The really awesome thing about these is for probably about 10 bucks, you can build one of these heavy-duty aluminum foil boxes that you probably get for free. And we use spray adhesive to keep the foil on.
It made it easier.
It's very simple to make and very effective.
Now, we used an apple box. If you want it stronger, you could actually use 2 apple boxes, one inside of another, and that would also help with more insulation. If you go to the liquor store, sometimes liquor stores have whiskey boxes and things that are just really, really tough, and they would last longer. So, you know, use whatever you have at your disposal. Okay, now the bonus, because I couldn't make up my mind, because I think that biomass and wood and all this kind of stuff, you're gonna find everywhere, especially, you know, during a disaster or something. So in a grid down, most of us can get our hands on some of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, when Mama prunes the orchard every year, we probably get enough of this kind of stuff to cook all year long.
Oh, yeah, at least. So let's talk a little bit about rocket stoves. What is a rocket stove?
Basically, where it pulls in the air, which fans the fire, which makes it nice and hot. So usually that involves some kind of a chimney, and with a chimney, it just draws that air in and you get a really hot fire. So you're using less fuel for a hot fire. You're cooking more efficiently.
Yeah, so this is the Inferno, and it requires either batteries or a USB cord so that it can blow a fan, which makes it burn super hot and takes great advantage of the fuel. You also have to have that backup. Now, this is something called the Kelly kettle, and I really like it. So you can use this a couple different ways. So this is actually the fire pan, and you can put the sticks in here, and you just keep burning it and feeding them in there, and you put your pan on top of it, and you can cook, or like we've done hamburgers and stuff in it. We've done all kinds of different things with this. The other thing you can do with the Kelly kettle is, this is a water jacket, and so you fill this with water, and you put this over here. Oh, it heats the water incredibly fast. And then while you're doing that, you can also take advantage of the top of it, and you can cook on it. This is a super cool little device if you don't have very many people to feed, but it will take, I mean, any kind of biomass, pine needles or pine cones or sticks, whatever you can burn, you can use the Kelly kettle and cook with that. So we really like that. Now, rocket stoves, we have something called a Bear River rocket stove that on our 30-day grid down cooking challenge, I fell in love with it. We asked to borrow it, and then I couldn't let it go back. We had to buy it.
Yeah, we cooked our entire Thanksgiving dinner with this rocket stove because it's got a big oven inside. It's got a large cooktop on top that we used both to fry stuff like breakfast or to put pans on and heat. And the kids had a job because they liked feeding the sticks in, so it made everyone happy.
And that is a drawback, is that you do have to tend it. A rocket stove, you've just got to tend it. But one of the things that we thought about that one was, during an emergency, we could light it up and all of our neighbors could bring their food and cook it, and we could use it just to bless the neighborhood. And so that's one of the reasons why we got it. The other thing in this category is actually my wood burning stove. Yes, it's going to take regular wood, but what a great way to be able to heat and cook in the winter. Everybody can't do that, and it would be miserable in the summer. But I love having my wood burning stove. So that's another option.
Another thing is your fire pit outside. If you have a fire pit, there's portable fire pits, there's, you know, kind of built-in fire pits. There you go. Same concept. You're using up chunks of wood, whatever you have.
Yeah, and with the fire pit, this last year, we installed one that's concrete all the way around so that it wouldn't be as dangerous. So we can also dispose of burnable things and use them as a cooking fuel. And I think that having a variety, you want to be able to cook indoor and you want to be able to cook outdoors. I think that's really important that you're able to do both, because depending on the situation, you may not be able to do one or the other, or it may be more convenient for you to do that. So there you go. There's our top 5
+1
grid down cooking methods.
Now for the question of the day. What is your favorite alternative cooking device? Share with us. And thanks for being part of the solution.